Hey everybody, thanks for joining me on the 6-Minute Podcast. As I said last week, the first few are going to be just slightly more than 6 minutes, so I can give you a quick introduction. The purpose of the 6-Minute Podcast is for us to discuss the church, discuss America, to discuss religion and politics and how they all work together. So we'll be touching on those and going over pieces of those. I'm going to try in 6 minutes to give you a lot of facts. So I will be talking fast, and I'm going to believe that you can listen fast. All right, so the food shortage, or the coming food shortage, or even if it's not going to be a shortage, but the increased cost when it comes to your food. We already know up to today's date, food has risen by 9. And that's going to be rising more as we go into the fall. Because again, as we talked about last week, it takes about 12 to 18 months for the increase of the farmer's price of doing business for seed and diesel and the like, and fertilizer to hit the market, which is us. And so we're expecting coming into the fall, food prices to continue to grow. I want to talk about quickly 7 reasons or causes that you may not be aware of. Some you may be, but some you may not be aware of why many people are looking at food shortages, and of course the fact that food prices are going to be rising. Number 1 is the Ukraine-Russian war. We all know about that. There's a lot of speculation about why Putin did what he did. But we're not going to get into all that stuff. We don't have time to get into all the depths of all these things. We're just going to touch on them. So the world is being dramatically harmed by the shortages of grain and fertilizer exports as a result of this war. That's just a fact. We all know that. Even the news media that doesn't want to talk about it knows that. Number 2, bird flu. You may not have heard of this one, or you've probably heard of the bird flu, but may not have thought about it. To date, over 30 million chicken and turkeys have either died or been culled due to bird flu. I'm sure you've noticed if you've gone to Sam's or any store lately to try to buy chicken, it's dramatically more expensive than it was a short time ago. That's number 2. Number 3 is the pandemic panic theater. We know that for 2 years we went through the pandemic, as they say, or the plague that I call it, and we know that lots of jobs and lots of businesses have disappeared. Some may come back, but it's not going to come back, even if the ones that are coming back very slowly. Major companies are begging employees to come back. I like what Elon Musk basically did, said if you don't come back, you're out of here. I know Starbucks CEO was begging employees to come back. I don't think that's a good option to beg your people to come back, but it's going to be a while before we see a full turnaround. I mentioned this last week, the food processing facilities being destroyed, 16 in total. We're not hearing a lot about that in the news, but we've had 16 food processing factories destroyed by fire. Number 5 is China hoarding. Probably haven't heard about this. I hadn't heard about this until I started studying this stuff. China started hoarding grain no later than 2019, maybe even earlier. By mid-2022, China will hold 69% of the world's reserve on corn. 60% of its reserves on rice, 51 of wheat, this is according to USDA predictions, not according to some guy who's a prepper who's living in a log cabin that he made out of sticks in the mountains someplace. This is the USDA saying this. We've all been aware of this and seen this. Number 6 is supply chain crisis. We know that there's been a huge crisis in the supply chain around the world, and especially in America. We heard about ships not being able to offload, not enough trucks, not enough shipping, and it's not really that big of a deal to solve, but somebody has to solve it, and the people who have to solve it are in Washington. We have sent billions of dollars to the Ukraine-Russian war. We should be spending some of that money figuring out how we're going to get our supply chains going. 7, you probably didn't hear about this, but 7 is ethanol. The biggest problem that's getting such little attention, it's what we know is a food shortage. We can say, well, is the food shortage manufactured? Maybe, and this is one of the reasons we can say that. Biden announced the lifting of restrictions on ethanol being used in gasoline for the summer. He alleged and said this will lower gas prices. As you know, it has done nothing. But what it has done is this. Union Pacific said they're going to ship 20% less fertilizer this year. Why? Because they're now shipping more corn and grains to make ethanol. And so you can look at the government and say, that doesn't make sense. Why would they do that? Don't know. Maybe it's a conspiracy theory, maybe it isn't. Maybe this whole food thing is being constructed, maybe it's not. But the fact of the matter is, what are you and I going to do about it? We've got to begin to think as Christians, as individuals, how are we going to take care of our family? How are we going to help with our food prices? And what are the things that you and I can do to better serve our community, our church, and our families when we begin to think about coming into this late summer, into fall, into the next year, about what we're going to do with food. I'm going to talk about that next week, so don't miss next week. Next week's 6-minute podcast, we're going to be talking about what you and I need to be thinking about and what you and I need to be doing. All right, God bless you. We love you. Appreciate you.